Hey everybody, it's GoblinX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today we have another sealed event of the Strixhaven format and getting some more practice in for the Arena Open next weekend. That is May 8th, I believe, is day one of the Arena Open. And if you make it through that with a 7-win run in sealed, you get into day two where you could potentially win $1,000 or $2,000 if you get 7 wins in that event as well. So very excited for that. It's always fun to play some pretty high stakes limited, and that's about the only time you can do it on Arena lately. So yeah, let's get some more sealed practice in so we can do our best at that point. Of course, we got a Cody in here. So of course, I did open up these packs already off camera because I just got kind of annoyed with the fact that it doesn't show you all of the rare mythics on one screen anyway, so I figure I can just do that in the deck builder. So here we have, looks like multiple Lorehold rares. That is where most of our overlap is. We have Cody if we end up in a deck with a ton of spells, but Cody's the sort of card I don't expect to be very good in sealed. You do have to draft around Cody a decent bit. You don't have to have no permanents in your deck, because obviously you're not always going to draw Cody, and even when you do, your opponents are probably going to kill Cody at some point, so you can definitely still have creatures in your deck. It doesn't have to be just instants and sorceries, but you do want a large amount of them and a good variety of mana costs for the instants and sorceries. The best kind of combos you can really do with Cody are... if you have a lot of learn cards in your deck, that's where Cody is going to really shine, because you get to cast an instant or sorcery with learn that grabs a lesson from your sideboard, and because you get to pick whatever lesson you want, you can get like a 5 mana lesson like elemental summoning. That way next turn you're playing a 5 mana instant or sorcery and then casting the next one from your deck that costs 4 or less. And then if you hit another card with learn, then you learn for another 5 mana lesson and just try to go off that way. So Cody definitely the kind of card that if you draft around it well is very powerful, but I highly doubt we'll be running it in sealed here. Growth Spiral is not really a rare-worthy card. It's basically just common, uncommon, but it is a very solid card for the Quandrix ramp decks if we've got good stuff in our green and blue commons and uncommons. Lorehold Command is bonkers and limited. I do really want to play this card, and I'm seeing multiple Lorehold rares, so it's very possible. Every mode of this card is quite solid at different points in the game. I think most often you'll just be spending 5 mana at instant speed to get a 3/2 flash blocker out and deal 3 to something and gain 3. That can get somebody out of nowhere. Giving your whole field indestructible out of nowhere can really get somebody on a big attack, especially because you get haste as well. But even on a big block, if your opponent is trying to alpha strike you, you could just block with your whole field and give it all indestructible, just eat their entire board. Lorehold Command is a very, very powerful card. We would be very, very happy to run if we can. Same with Blade Historian, although Blade Historian's a much more difficult mana cost. Pretty hard to play Blade Historian in like a 3-color deck because you do need 4 red or white mana, so it's definitely by far the easiest to cast in just a Lorehold deck, just red and white. And it's better the more aggressive you are, giving your whole field double strike while attacking only. So definitely a really good finisher for aggro decks. So there's 2 very solid Lorehold cards there. Blex Vexing Pest is not really a mythic rare worthy card, in my opinion. A 3 mana 3/2 that you gain 4 life when it dies. And the tribal element of it, giving +1/+1 to all those different creature types, doesn't come into play particularly often in this limited format. This definitely feels like the kind of plant that they've thrown in for Commander. The Search for Blex, though, is a pretty solid draw spell. So it's a good black card here, but we're not really looking towards Blex as anything particularly exciting. I guess if you draft a million pests, you could get some use out of giving all the pest tokens +1/+1, but that's about it for the special uses there. We do have another Witherbloom rare, so 2 pretty solid Witherbloom rares. Again, with Blex, I'm more excited for the Search for Blex as a good draw spell, but if we have a lot of pest production, then I guess Blex works as well. And I think both halves of Valentine and Lisette are pretty powerful. Valentine, 1 mana for a 1/1 menace lifelink, and whenever one of your non-token creatures dies, you can spend 2 mana and exile it to get a 1/1 pest. So now if you have the extra mana up, you're getting a little bit of value whenever one of your creatures dies. So that's pretty solid, but definitely not quite as powerful as I think Lisette is. 4 mana for a 4/4. And whenever you gain life, you can spend 1 mana to put a +1/+1 counter on all of your creatures and give them trample till end of turn. So if you've got those life gain synergies, that's a pretty massive buff to give the whole field a permanent +1/+1 and temporary trample. Finally, we have Shale, Dean of Radiance, and Embrose, Dean of Shadow. Shale would be great in the aggressive kind of lore hold strategy. It looks like we have the good rares for Shale plus Blade Historian plus lore hold command there. Shale, again, really being good. If you curve out with this on turn 2, then all of a sudden every creature you play for the rest of the game is coming into play with a +1/+1 counter off of Shale's ability. With the Vigilance, you get to chip away at your opponent for a damage every turn anyway. And then Embrose is definitely the slower card, but also really good at making your field larger and larger over time. So Embrose being a 4 mana 4/4, putting a +1/+1 counter on one of your creatures, and whenever your creatures with counters on them die, you draw a card. So they're both really good cards. But I definitely really like the look of Lorehold, and it is my favorite college, so I think that's where I'm leaning here. I have played a ton of Lorehold recently, but of course there's not much I can do about it in Sealed. In Sealed I am going to go where I think the most powerful cards tend to be. But in Draft, I probably am overdrafting Lorehold a bit just because it is my favorite college. So let's see how our I guess let's check our multicolored stuff. Probably should do that first when we get to the end here. Actually, our Prismari commons and uncommons are pretty great, and there's a lot of them. Prismari Pledge Mage is a great blocker. Rutha can double up your big spells in the late game. Spectacle Mage and Maelstrom Muse are both good enablers to make them cheaper. Elemental Summoning is a great lesson to have. Ogier Battleseers are okay, probably a bit better in Sealed. Sealed does tend to be a bit slower than Draft. In Draft, I've been a little unimpressed by those. They're kind of just filler to me. Practical Research is a great draw spell, and the Elemental Masterpiece is a great spell to ramp into. So it's some pretty solid Prismari stuff there. Oh, we definitely want the Pledge Mage as well. I keep accidentally bumping things. What did I just put in? I guess nothing. I guess I just scooched a card around a little bit. Really nice to have the colorless lessons here. So whatever colors we end up in, any of our learn cards will be active with Environmental Sciences, Expand Anatomy, and Introduction to Prophecy. So that's pretty solid there. So for Prismari, I do think our red looks pretty good. It's pretty thin. There aren't a lot of red cards here, but the ones that we have are good. We've got Great Removal, Shock, Heated Debate, and Igneous Inspiration are all fantastic. Igneous being my favorite out of those, followed by the Heated Debate, followed by the Shock. And then we just have like a couple filler creatures, Tome Shredder and Illustrious Historian. How does our blue look here? Arcane Subtraction is a pretty solid learn spell. Negate is actually probably quite a bit better in this format than most, just because there are so many powerful instants and sorceries, so I am going to actually probably main deck that. Reject, probably not. Well, I guess if I want to stick to just 2 colors and play a Prismari deck, we'd be throwing in Reject, and we'd be throwing in one of these Pomp spells. That seems bad. There's got to be some kind of hybrid card I could play. I don't want to main deck the Elemental Summoning because I like having that more often, and you will draw it more often if you keep it in the sideboard, because then I can draw it whenever I cast an Arcane Subtraction or a Igneous Inspiration. So that's like having 2 copies of it instead of just 1. What's our creature to non-creature count in here? We have 7 instants and 4 sorceries. I guess this could be could try to be a Cody deck here. probably wouldn't be particularly great. It's possible. We could also play Campus Guide for the fixing, Biblioplex Assistant to bring something back. I actually would probably like Biblioplex Assistant if we did the straight Prismari. So yeah, I do like the look of that. We've got a lot of great gold Prismari cards. I think I would probably want to be splashing in a little Quandrix here if we could. Do we have any campuses? That is definitely something to keep your eye out on in Limited. We've got a Silver Quill campus, and that is it for mana fixing lands. We do have that Environmental Sciences, though, to grab off of our Learn cards, which is pretty great. So we do have several good like Quandrix cards here. Decisive Denial is an instant speed fight spell or counter spell. Growth Spiral is great ramp. Zimone is a great draw spell. Biomathematicians being a fine blocker. I don't know if any of these are like so good I really want to splash them though. Yeah, even the commons are all just like solid filler kind of stuff to where we could play like a green-blue, green-black deck here. But nothing that I feel is actually like that exciting to just splash in here. So I feel if we went with blue-red, we probably wouldn't splash in. We'd just be like, bam, here's the deck. So we have taken a look at that, but I do definitely want to take a look at Lorehold as well. But Prismari looks like probably the second best of the color schemes for us, because I think our red is really solid. There just aren't a ton of red cards. And our blue, we just have enough blue cards to fill up the deck at least. Definitely got some synergies here as well. Rutha with a good instant sorcery count, and the couple Prismari cards that make things cheaper. So let's see how Lorehold looks. The thing about the Lorehold is the way that our rares look with Blade Historian and Shale Dean of Radiance. We do want to have a pretty aggressive curve. So we gotta hope that we've got a lot of good like 2-drop, 3-drop creatures, and already just off of white we've got 4 2-mana creatures, which is nice. Thunderous Orator being pretty great in the aggressive decks. It's a 2-mana 2/2 Vigilance by itself, and it gains the abilities of whatever else you have on your field when it attacks. So it's really great when you have a lot of flyers, and right now we already have 2 flyers. We've got Shale at 2 mana and Stonerise Spirit at 2 mana, so these really help turn the Thunderous Orders on to be 2 mana 2/2 flying vigilant creatures, which is just exceptional if you can get that going. Combat Professor is obviously an incredible aggressive creature. Pilgrim of the Ages is a great card, but it is better in the slower, more controlling decks. I think we'd still run it in here anyway, because in Sealed, obviously, if you're sticking to 2 colors, you don't have much of a choice but to just play the best cards in those colors, regardless of their cohesion with your strategy. Pillar Drop Rescuer seems like a great 5-drop for us, just as the top end of our curve, pick up one of our earlier creatures, probably pick up another flying threat, some kind of evasive card to throw back on the field. Dueling Coach is a bit slow, but it can make your field really big. Probably run it here, because probably don't have much of a choice. Definitely run Triple Expel, even though we're aggressive, it's still great removal, and you want to have ways to kill really massive creatures in this format. Quandrix and Witherbloom can just make ridiculously large threats. Quandrix, of course, has cards like the Leyline Invocation that can make gigantic fractals that you're not going to be able to kill with your burn spells like Igneous Inspiration and Heated Debate. And Witherbloom has some decently sized creatures just because of green, but they also have like Blood Researcher that can become absolutely massive with the right synergies. So it is good to have the removal that can just kill anything there. And if you're really, really aggressive, Detention Vortex isn't technically like completely unplayable. You spend 1 mana to shut off a creature for at least 1 combat step, because your opponent isn't allowed to destroy this except as a sorcery. So you can play this to shut off 1 blocker that's really hindering your lethal attack to get in for lethal. You can also do this to kind of set your opponent behind on tempo. This is a card that earlier, whenever I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's stone cold unplayable. But the more I look at it, I think there are some situations where Detention Vortex could be okay, mainly if you're really aggressive. So Detention Vortex a possibility, but I'm still not super excited about it, especially with the great red removal we have, so we'll see. If we need it, we can fill out our deck with it. Get another 2-drop here, Illustrious Historian, that definitely helps us be aggressive. Got a couple combat tricks there in red we might actually be interested in using in the Lorehold deck. Lorehold Apprentice, kind of just a filler 2-drop here, but we do want those 2-drops to be aggressive. And we want one more card here now. I could see a Biblioplex Assistant here because we can get back some pretty powerful instants and sorceries that we would be casting on turn 3. So we could curve into this, you know, turn 3 Heated Debate or Igneous Inspiration, and then turn 4 bring back one of them with Biblioplex Assistant. Also Expel also on turn 3. We have Campus Guide though to fill out our 2-drops a little more. Lorehold Excavation seems really slow for this deck, but this card can be playable in the slower Lorehold strategies. Mill a card every turn, and then once you have 5 mana, you can start spitting out 3/2 spirits. Don't think I would want that for this deck. What else do we have? We could play like a Silver Quill Pledge Mage. This card has performed pretty well for me in the past in aggressive strategies. A 3-1, a 3-1 that can get flying pretty frequently, or anytime that you don't need that evasiveness, just getting some lifelink to help outrace other decks is quite nice. So these are some solid abilities to give it. So I do like Silver Quill Pledge Mage. We could throw that in here. Prismari Pledge Mage is okay as well if we have a ton of instants and sorceries, but I think we already have a ton of 2-drops that can just always attack. So having to curve into instants and sorceries all the time with this for it to be aggressive makes it a little less good in aggressive decks than defensive decks for sure. And I feel like a lot of the time we would just want to curve out a 2-mana, 2-power creature into a 3-mana creature rather than an instant or sorcery. Yeah, I definitely think that our Lorehold deck looks more cohesive, and it has a little more explosive power in terms of the power level of the bombs, Blade Historian, and a Lorehold command. So we did take a peek at an alternate strategy here, but I'm almost certain this is just going to be Lorehold aggro here. So what are our weakest cards? Because we could make some more adjustments to make the strategy even more streamlined towards aggression. Because that is something, Sealed does tend to be a decent amount less aggressive than Draft. So when you get those sealed pools that can really lean into aggression, you can really surprise people with them. It can be a really solid strategy. I think Dueling Coach for sure I don't really want in this deck, because by itself it's essentially a 4-mana 3/3 that doesn't make anything any bigger until you spend 5 mana on it, so it's a really, really slow card. So Dueling Coach for sure out of everything here I think would be something I'm really looking to cut, and then maybe like an Expel or a Pilgrim if we can throw in more aggressive creatures. However, we don't have any other good, like, great aggressive creatures here. We only have 15 creatures in the deck. So I don't really want to cut creatures for combat tricks like Infuriate or Sudden Breakthrough. I think our non-creature count is getting scooped up by some pretty great instants and sorceries right now. Shock, Study Break, Igneous Inspiration, Heated Debate. Yeah, these are great instants and sorceries, so I don't really think I have room for just combat tricks, even though this would be a deck that could use them. I mean, maybe we could cut like 1 Expel for an Infuriate. That seems solid to me. Yeah, we'll cut 1 Expel, throw in 1 Infuriate, and then I think I like cutting Dueling Coach or a land for like Campus Guide or Biblioplex Assistant. Maybe we cut 1 Dueling Coach, put in 1 Campus Guide, 1 Biblioplex Assistant. Gets our creature curve down because we cut a 4-drop for a 2-drop, and then Biblioplex Assistant definitely seems pretty solid for this deck as well, as I said before, with the cheap instants and sorceries that are pretty powerful to bring back. And now we have Campus Guide that can grab a land when we play it. We have Double Pilgrim of the Ages that can grab planes when we play them. We have any of our learn cards can grab an environmental sciences, so I think we can cut to 16 lands here. I mean, our curve, we have 2 4-drops and 2 5-drops, but everything else is going to be 3, 2, 1. So this right here would be the 17 land build, and then we might be putting in the Biblioplex Assistant going to the 16 land build. Yeah, I mean, that seems definitely possible to me. I guess our 4 and 5 mana cards, the few that we have are like so powerful, we do want to consistently hit them, and we want to hit them as early as possible, so that would be a reason not to cut a land here, even though our curve is pretty low. Curve being an average of 2.7. Yeah, I guess the Biblioplex Assistant, while it does bring back a good instant or sorcery, is also kind of a slow effect. Because you play it and then you don't get the thing back till next turn, until your next draw step. Maybe we could cut like a Pilgrim of the Ages for it rather than a land. Could see that. I don't think I'm cutting any of our 2 mana creatures, even though we do have some mediocre stuff in there like the Campus Guide. Yeah, maybe I undervalue the Biblioplex Assistant, but I think it's just like okay. It's not like great. I don't know. I'll throw it in. We'll do the 16 land thing here. So we've got 16 white cards and 10 red cards. We don't have any good dual lands, unfortunately. Let's go grab our Strixhaven lands here. Grab the lore hold lands for sure. So we could go like 9-7 here with the amount of white versus red. I don't actually know which one of these is Prismari and which one is lore hold. I'm guessing this one is lore hold? I really don't know. Well, our lands might not be the most flavorful. We might have a Prismari Mountain in there. But this looks to be the deck. Looks like a really solid, pretty aggressive deck in terms of what sealed decks are generally capable of. We have some pretty good lessons in the board and a couple great learn cards. Igneous Inspiration and Study Break. Not a lot of learning going on here to grab the good lessons, though. But the good lessons that we have, of course, are Spirit Summoning being a solid creature. We have Environmental Sciences to grab a land when we need it. Expanded Anatomy to make our best threat even bigger. I could definitely foresee some games where we throw this onto a Silver Quill Pledge Mage, slap him in the sky for 5 damage, or for 5 lifelink, something like that. Even throwing that onto a Thunderous Orator could be pretty good. We have Introduction to Prophecy, giving us a draw spell as a lesson. We have Elemental Summoning, so we have a 5 mana 4/4 as a lesson. We have Inkling Summoning, so we have a Flyer as a lesson. We really, really have a good selection of lessons. Just not a ton of learn cards here. But we do have the Biblioplex Assistant. We could recast a learn card like Igneous Inspiration or Study Break with that. Yeah, I like this deck a lot. We have a lot of cheap creatures here that can get aggressive well. We have the cheap removal to help them break through. Igneous Inspiration, Heated Debate, and Shock. And then even against those rampy kind of Quandrix or Prismari decks, they're going to end up playing creatures that are too big for us to deal with normally. We have Study Break to break in for a lethal attack in the late game, tapping down their 2 biggest blockers, and we have a couple expels as well to deal with creatures that are too large for damage-based removal or our creatures to deal with, so I am liking this deck a lot. We also have those explosive bombs, Lore Hold Command, Blade Historian, and Shale, Dean of Radiance, so it looks like a pretty solid deck here. I am excited to see how well this works out. So let's get into the games. It is quite early in the morning when I'm recording this, so we'll see if anybody is playing Sealed. Magic is a worldwide game, though, so I gotta assume somebody somewhere is awake. Here we go. Alright, here we are. We are on the play, which is where we want to be. We have a curve of a 2-mana creature into a 3-mana creature, but not much action after that. I think we still got to keep it. I mean, we have both of our colors. We have that starting curve there. We are just hoping to draw into some more action. Even if we don't, we have a solid start to a more controlling game here, especially with Igneous Inspiration as the draw as well. But both of our creatures so far give us more value than just their power and toughness. Illustrious Historian can come back later, Pilgrim of the Ages as well can come back later, and grabs a land when we first play it. Definitely not going to use an Igneous Inspiration on the Eye Twitch. It gives them value when it dies, and I would rather have the Igneous Inspiration for creatures that are larger than just 1/1 here. However, I will offer the trade with the Illustrious Historian. It is a pretty expendable creature here, giving us value even from the grave. The only thing that I don't like about the proposition of this is they might have some pretty good lessons. We'll find out here what they learn. I think the best I could think of that they would consistently have here would be an Inkling Summoning if they do have their 3rd land, and if they don't, an Environmental Sciences to grab it. Environmental Sciences it is, so we'll drop our Pilgrim of the Ages here, and grab a Plains. They are on 3 colors here, Witherbloom and Silver Quill. And they drop a Pilgrim of the Ages of their own, grabbing a Plains. We've drawn into a Tome Shredder, so that can get pretty big later. I don't really want to haste it out here, because I don't want to offer the trade of our Tome Shredder into their Pilgrim of the Ages. I think we just offer the trade with our Pilgrims right now. But this is definitely not the ideal start for this deck. It is shaping up to be a long game, and I'm not so sure we have great prospects in that sort of matchup. We do have the Igneous Inspiration here, so that can help in the long game. That can get us a pretty big lesson. Just grab our 5-mana 4/4 there. We have the Expel to deal with one of their large creatures. We're definitely not just like out of it because we haven't started off aggressively. And we have Expel and Igneous Inspiration here. Igneous Inspiration is a sorcery. Expel's an instant, but it exiles tapped creatures, so that's not going to hit anything. There's no reason to play anything but the Tome Shredder here. If we had 5 mana, I'd probably just hold up the ability to exile our Illustrious Historian and get a Spirit token out of it. Because a 3/2 is larger than a 2/2, and we don't have any instants or sorceries in grave to shred yet. Alright. Spectre of the Fens, that is a 3 toughness target to use an Igneous Inspiration on, so I believe I will do that, and we'll probably learn for our 4/4, but we'll see what else we have to choose from. Inkling Summoning would be good too. Scry 2 draw a card would be good. We do have 2 mana up right now, so we could grab like Environmental Sciences if we want to cast something immediately. But that doesn't seem necessary to me. I think I just want a 5 mana 4/4 here, another big creature to put on this board. And I would rather make the Tome Shredder bigger than attack with it right now, because right now they're at 20 life. So like Tome Shredder attacking again every turn, it's going to take 10 turns to kill them. If I exile 1 instant or sorcery from my grave, Tome Shredder's now a 3/3. And then it takes 7 turns to kill them after that, because 7 times 3 is 21. So currently, it is definitely better to get the counter on than poke them for just 2 here. The only reason to poke them for 2 here would be if we're pretty sure Tome Shredder's about to die, but I don't expect it to pull removal from our opponent until it's like a 4/4, because they know that we get to cast a 4/4, so if they have removal, they'll save it for that first. So Pillar Drop Rescuer is the play. Return their Eye Twitch to their hand so they can learn again when that dies. That seems like some real solid value. This is a pretty value-based sealed format. The more kind of learn, lesson sort of cards that you get, the better your sealed pool is going to be generally. And we're certainly not doing great on that front. We've got all the lessons, but we only have 2 learn cards. So I could attack in now, chip in for 3, or I can make Tome Shredder a 4/4. I think we'll just be making Tome Shredder a 4/4. I think most of the time it's better to just keep making your Tome Shredder bigger when you can do that. Obviously, if your opponent's getting to a pretty low life total, that's where that starts to be a consideration, but at 20 life, we would just chip them down to 17. Almost definitely better to just have 2 4/4s on this board. We do have that Biblioplex Assistant, though. That is the one kind of awkward nombo in our deck. Biblioplex Assistant and Tome Shredder not working together in any sort of harmony. Pilgrim of the Ages is coming back to their hand from the grave for 6, which is interesting. They've got a lot of cards in hand, so a lot of options to what to do. It's quite interesting that their best play here is to pull back the 2/1. That makes me definitely less scared than I would be normally of a 7 card in hand opponent. Now we just get to start bashing in with 4/4s. We're definitely chipping away at least a little bit here. Oh wow, no blocks, we get to chip them down to 12. I am happy to take that here, and we'll just pass turn holding up our 6 or 5 mana graveyard synergies here. So we could pull back the Pilgrim of the Ages so that we can grab another Plains out of our deck and thin out the lands, because we do have more than we need right now, so we would like to not draw any more. So pulling a land out of our deck makes it less likely we just top deck another land. However, it's probably better to just get the 3/2 that can immediately attack the next turn than the 2/1 that'll be summoning sick because we have to cast this next turn. Whereas with this, the Spirit goes right onto the board, so it'll be ready to attack when we untap. That being said, a 3/2 doesn't attack in super well against a Pilgrim of the Ages, because it'll just trade with that, and then the Pilgrim will come back again. Yeah, Pilgrim is a really annoying blocker once you get into the late game. And this is where I was saying that it is very good in more controlling strategies. It's just if you survive to the late game, it's really hard to chip through. For that reason, I think I will be returning my Pilgrim, because a 3/2 just... I mean, if I play a 3/2 here, at least they can't like double block one of my 4/4s with 2 2/1s. Yeah, it's actually probably good to keep the pressure on. They are at 12 here, of course 14 functionally because they're gaining 2 life off Environmental Sciences. They have held 3 mana up here rather than cast Environmental Sciences, which has me a bit worried. I think we play the 3-2. We let it trade for Pilgrim of the Ages because if our 3-2 trades for Pilgrim of the Ages, then that means on board our 4/4s don't die here because the worst they can do is double block with 3 total power toughness. So I think we actually do still stay aggressive with the 3-2 here. There's the Biblioplex Assistant to go with the Tome Shedder. That is always beautiful, but it is a flying threat, so if we start clearing out some of their flyers, that'll be able to get through. Got 8 mana here. Slam in that attack. See what kind of trades happen here. They have a lot of options for sure. They can kill whichever one of our 3 creatures they want, but they can only kill one of them. I feel like we're going to have to cast our Biblioplex Assistant as just a 2/1 flyer and not get an instant or sorcery back with it here, because we are pressuring them enough to where we're putting them down to 4 here. They're going to gain 2 from Environmental Sciences, but they'll still be down to 6 at that point. Just go as wide as we can. I guess they have an Expel. In that case, I might hold off. Because all I need to do is expel 1 card, and then I can actually get something back with Biblioplex Assistant. And then I can just double expel. So now they're at functionally 10 life. A Biblioplex Assistant is just going to trade with an Eye Twitch, which is pretty terrible. Yeah, we'll hold on to the Biblioplex here. We're 1 mana away from being able to put Pilgrim of the Ages back into our hand and play it in the same turn, which is always pretty great. So we could even, oh dear. I think we just get nuked by that. Pretty bomby limited card here. +1, lose a life, look at the top 3 cards, put 1 into your hand, the rest into your grave. So it draws you the best card out of your top 3 every turn. -3 kills our best creature every turn. Yeah, there's just no way we can beat a Liliana. I don't believe we have any removal that can kill that unless we draw into our Heated Debate basically immediately. That could do damage to a Planeswalker, or our Shock. So we're all in on drawing a Shock or Heated Debate here, or we are just getting bombed out of this one. However, now I'm pretty sure they attack, so we can actually get some Expel value. Oh, they're just going to play it super safe. That's fair. I mean, if you have the creatures playing against a red deck, I could have haste. They're at a low life total, and they don't want Lily to die. So just hold up the defenses. They don't really have to attack to win this game at this point. They can just spam Liliana until they get to the -8, and that'll definitely kill me. Guess we're throwing Pilgrim back to hand then. We do have a Thunderous Orator here, so we can play several creatures this turn at least. If I'm going to play Pilgrim of the Ages this turn, I should do it before I play land to give them less information about what's in my hand. And I think I will here just cast all of my creatures. Casting Biblioplex Assistant now so that Thunderous Order can attack with flying, so I have 2 flyers out. I'm very unlikely to be casting Expel this game. Now that they have a Professor Onyx out, they're just not going to attack in as long as I have any creatures on the board, so they can defend her. And the fact that all my creatures are 2 power is really good against her -3, because now I can just keep sacrificing Pilgrim of the Ages at least. That's pretty nice. We can always sacrifice our most expendable creature right now. Combat Professor coming out. Nice solid card there. Like how they have the Professor Onyx sleeves to go with the Professor Onyx in deck.
Let's go digging.
They have 5 mana up here. They have a Witherbloom Campus as well, so they get to start scrying anytime they run out of cards. Our opponent definitely has a real solid deck build here for a more controlling sort of strategy. Pillar Drop Rescuer. We have no creatures in grave right now that are small enough to pick up with that. So Pillar Drop Rescuer is just a 2/2 in the sky here. Yeah, I'm just going to scoop them up at this point. There's nothing we can do. Even if we get the removal off on Liliana next turn, like if we top deck the Heated Debate, it's too late at this point. They've drawn additional cards off of it, and they have the board very stabilized against my field of 2 power creatures. We just don't have any outs in that position anymore. I guess the closest would be like a Lorehold command, because then we could like kill Liliana and then sacrifice a land to draw a couple cards and hope that we draw into gas, because then we might be able to have an equivalent amount of cards available as our opponent, but even then, that would require immense luck off of what we draw into. Off of not only having command on top, but the next 2 cards being just exceptional. Alright, we're going first again, and we start with a 2-drop creature, and we've got great removal and a really powerful command for the late game. Now even more great removal drawn to the Heated Debate as well. Alright, well this is a little awkward to just draw all of the removal and no creatures. We would prefer to be curving out here, but I don't want to complain too hard because this hand is great, even if I don't get to put as much pressure on my opponent as I would like. A shock as well. Alright. Igneous Inspiration now. Unless they have an Infuriate from the Mystical Archives, this should be the kill. They only have 1 red up. We only have 3 mana available here. Do we want to grab Environmental Sciences to get us closer to Lorehold command? We do have enough mana to cast Environmental Sciences and Shock in the same turn. I kind of also think we might just want a creature here, though, a Spirit Summoning or an Inkling Summoning, because if we just keep playing creatures, we've got all the removal to get them in. And then, like, we've got time to just naturally draw the lands for the Lorehold command. Because Lorehold command's better the more creatures we have out. Yeah, I think I just want Spirit Summoning, actually. Not even the Inkling Summoning. Because I would just want the highest power creatures I can get, because I can just clear out any blockers they have. Tome Shredder is the play now. We'll definitely shock that. Land is a great draw. Now I have the mana to shock that and Spirit Summoning. Again, for 1 red mana, they should not have a way to stop the shock here. They might have their own shock, though, so I guess I should have attacked first, but I highly doubt they shock my 2/1 that can come back later. They do have a shock. But yeah, I really don't think they would have shocked the Historian. We can Heated Debate that, or we can just attack in and cast another creature, and then we can Study Break their 2 creatures on their next turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That makes it so they have 6 mana towards spells with mana value 5 or greater. So if they play one more land, they have enough mana for Elemental Masterpiece, the 2/4/4 spell. I think that is something I want to play around here. Normally I would just throw down the Orator and then hold up Study Break, but actually, yeah, if they cast the 2/4/4 spell, I'm still fine. Because I can Study Break, tap both the 4/4s, then I can expel one of them, and then I can just Heated Debate the other one later. So we actually don't need to play around that, we can just stay as aggressive as possible here. But I would definitely expect it. Ooh, no Elemental Mastery, that is good for us. You do attack in with the Spectacle Mage. Could have Study Breaked pre-combat there, but then if they cast another creature post-combat, then I wouldn't be able to attack in, and I really want to make sure I can be able to attack in. I've got enough life to definitely take a little bit of hits here to make sure that I'm cracking in as well as possible. I think that I want just like a solid creature here. Like an elemental summoning. I need another red mana for that though, so probably Inkling Summoning. Yeah, if I draw one more mana, I'm just casting Lorehold Command, just period. If I don't, I probably just want to do Inkling Summoning when I want to cast creatures. I guess, no, this is probably when I need Environmental Sciences, because the thing is, next turn I want to kill one of these with Heated Debate or Expel, and I can do that and Environmental Sciences in the same turn. If I don't draw the land, of course I did just naturally draw the land, so let's see. I can make a 3/2, give my whole field +1/+0 haste, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I can hit for 10 here off of a big attack. Definitely feel bad about picking up the Environmental Sciences, but if we didn't draw the land here, Environmental Sciences would have been perfect, because then we just draw a land and then cast one of our 3 mana removal spells. We probably just hit for 10, right? Excuse me. I guess the fact that I don't quite lethal them makes it so maybe Lorehold Command's better on blocks. We can kill Spectacle Mage, trade off with Fuming Effigy. Just try to keep this board controlled. Because we've got the cards to definitely keep the board controlled, and we only have to hit them 3 times with these. Burying books. Throw that back into our library. Could this save that in any way? No, we could sacrifice it to draw 2 cards if we want, but I don't think that's the play here. Do I even want to kill one of these with just Expel or Heated Debate? Probably not. Let's just kill both of them. They only have 2 cards in hand. I'll actually use Expel rather than actually kill the Fuming Effigy. Oh yeah, well, now I'm no longer expelling. Just going to shoot that, so they can't draw a million cards here. attack all 3. They block there, take 4. Yeah, I think that's our best play here. If they have an instant speed removal spell, they get to kill multiple of our things. If they don't, though, they just die, so I think we make the attack. That will save them for now. We're down to 3. Cast our Order, cast our Sciences. They're not gonna have a tapped creature, so there's really no reason to do that. Another Fuming Effigy. And a Blood Age General. Into 2 creatures here, that's not good for us. Spell one of the effigies, and we're in a stalemate now. Another Order. So one big play here where we would have won by now if we did it differently. Well, there's 2 different ones. One is we could have went just all aggressive on the Lore Hold command. Still don't know if that would have been right, but once I decided that I didn't want to trade my 3/2 with the Fuming Effigy, I should have decided to shoot the Fuming Effigy with the 3 damage rather than the Spectacle Mage. That way all my 2-power creatures could attack into a Spectacle Mage where they couldn't into a Fuming Effigy. So all I need at this point really is to just top deck a flyer, and then I immediately win. I attack for 4 in the sky. So that's kind of where we're at here. Could be attacking with this Pilgrim of the Ages. I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I need 1 more mana to attack in and then recast it. So I can start doing that next turn just to thin out my lands, make it more likely to draw into a flyer. Wandering Archaic, so our instants and sorceries cost more, but of course at this point in the game we're good. Just draw another Pilgrim of the Ages. Drop that out, spread our board as wide as possible. Yeah, I definitely think I should have shot a Fuming Effigy over a Spectacle Mage earlier. That was the biggest kind of punt sort of thing. This is a really weird attack to me. If they don't play another creature, they just die. So that means they almost definitely have another creature, right? Could also just block and return a Pilgrim. If they don't play another creature here, then they did just like get me. I guess they don't have to play another creature if I make the trade, but if I don't make the trade, they have to drop another creature out. Ooh, Silver Quill Pledge Mage. If I draw an instant or sorcery, then I just slam them in the sky, which is great. Play the Pilgrim first in case they have some kind of weird counterspell. And now the Silver Quill Pledge Mage. Maelstrom Muse, another flyer here. Pillar Drop Rescuer. Turn a creature with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to your hand. That'll give my Orders flying here, so I attack with double Order, but that only gets in for 2. They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blockers. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 attackers. If I have any creatures that can punch through at all, I'll get there right now, but I don't. I just have a Lorehold Apprentice. Lorehold Apprentice makes any instant or sorcery, again, just immediate lethal. So if I slam the all attack here, I don't think that it pans out well for me because I lose my 3/1 into their 2/4. I guess these are both flying if I attack all. So they have to block one of these with the 2/4 to kill it. So that gets blocked and dies. This gets blocked and dies. This gets blocked and dies. Trade. Trade. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 2 creatures to block that. Yeah, I'm at 4 life. I can't make that attack, I think. I guess I have the order, so I have 3 creatures left to block with. I don't think I can make that attack. They're in the think tank here, so I don't think that means that they have just a shock or something for immediate lethal. I obviously have to make a jump here or I die. So we will block the Spectacle Mage. They have 4 blockers, I've got 7 attackers. Should be good. This is basically our last chance. It is literally our last chance. If this doesn't kill them right now, we die in the sky. There we go. Okay. I was getting really worried there. We had those Magecraft triggers for the win for a few turns, and I was like, uh-oh. Just never see an instant or sorcery, but if we just draw enough more creatures than our opponent, that can get there as well. That was a very close game. Did not need to be nearly that close if we had just played the Lorehold command differently there. Again, I still don't know if I agree that with no information that just slamming them down to 2 would be the best there, but I guess it's possible because we do have... No, we already used our Shock and our Igneous Inspiration, so we didn't have any direct damage left in our deck, but I guess we did technically have the 2/2 that if we ever drew another instant sorcery could ping at our opponent's life. But yeah, I think definitely should have killed the 4/3 rather than the 2/2 flyer, because we weren't too worried about the evasiveness. We were much more worried about the size of the creatures there for our ability to attack back into them. So we are on the play here. We got Historian turn 2, Pledge Mage turn 3. Seems like a great start here. Heated Debate, as well as our Instant or Sorcery to give the Pledge Mage Flying or Lifelink. Probably going to be Lifelink this game. I foresee just shooting one creature with that, and then they have nothing on board, so might as well just give lifelink. So a swamp followed by an Archway Commons. I'm going to play the Silver Quill Pledge Mage over the Lorehold Pledge Mage, because if they play any creatures right now, we're just going to throw a Heated Debate at them. So the first strike isn't going to do anything. Cultivate, no creatures. I like the sign of that. We are pretty good against slow sort of ramp decks. Just bashing as well as we can, as quickly as we can. As soon as they start playing big creatures, it could be pretty scary. And Blade Historian's a ridiculous draw. Puts them down to 8 immediately. We have the removal spell to back it up. It's going to take a lot to get out of this one. Mage Hunter's Onslaught on Blade Historian. We still have 5 damage on board. Put them to 3 life. And I'm going to play the Lorehold Pledge Mage over the Campus Guide, as it is a better ability than the Campus Guide for us right now. Campus Guide would give us the next land to be able to drop Pillar Drop Rescuer next turn, but with the heated debate, the Magecraft trigger on Lorehold Pledge Mage is really solid here, being able to hit in for lethal, and to blot out the sky from our opponent, but they all come into play tapped, so that will just be game. That right there was the poster child for the idea around this aggressive Lorehold deck. Blade Historian really putting in work that game. Super quick one. Definitely a very rough time for the ramp opponent. I believe we're at 2-1 now then, heading into round 4. So pretty decent start, all things considered. Alright, here we are on the play again, which is where I like to be, but with only red mana, that is not ideal. Yep, this is going to have to be a mulligan for me here. There's the white mana, but we don't have double white to cast Pledge Mage. I think I'm even going to get rid of the Pledge Mage here for that reason. Could get rid of a mountain as well, then we can just like Study Break to grab Environmental Sciences. That gives us the plane for Pledge Mage, and then we can cast everything. Yeah, and then if we like top deck a planes, then the hand's just like perfect. That actually seems solid to me. If we top deck a planes, the hand's perfect. If we don't top deck a planes, then we just Study Break on nothing to grab Environmental Sciences, and we miss a turn of action, but it sets us up decently, and it's pretty good with Tome Shredder. Just get a lot of stuff in the grave there. There's a Blade Historian as the draw as well, so very, very glad that we're going for the Environmental Sciences here. If this gets negated, though, we're in a real bad spot. No negate, though. Our opponent is on Prismari, with a Prismari Campus and an island out so far. Quandrix Pledge Mage will be the first play here. As much as I would like just dumping out a Blade Historian, I think we have to kill the Quandrix Pledge Mage before it has the potential to get any larger. So I believe Igneous Inspiration it's going to be. Kind of like just grabbing an Elemental Summoning. It's going to be quite a while before we can play it, but that's okay. I guess against Prismari, an Inkling might be better. Get a flyer against their just 4/4 elementals and stuff they'll have later in the game. Yeah, I'll grab an Inkling Summoning. 4 mana for them now. 6 cards in hand. One of them is a Spectacle Mage coming on out. Do I want to just kill that? Do I want to just keep shooting everything that they play? Not really. I mean, they only have 4 mana out, so they can cast a 5 mana spell next turn. Even if they don't draw land, if they do draw land, they can cast it without the Spectacle Mage anyway. I'm not scared of any 6 mana instants or sorceries. There aren't a lot of those in the format. 7 mana is where they start really going off. So I don't think we need to kill it immediately. Tome Shredder's pretty good here. We've got 3 cards in our grave already for it. Blade Historian's a lot better, like coming out later and surprising them out of nowhere to make, you know, our Tome Shredder attack and double strike for a million. I'm just gonna play the Tome Shredder here, I think. we can make this quite large. And if nothing else, it should draw removal to help Blade Historian survive later. Taking 2 in the sky here, I assume. Yep, down to 20. Environmental Sciences, of course, putting us up to 22 there. And a Pillar Drop Warden from our opponent. I'd love to be able to kill that, but I only have 4 damage. They don't have an instant or sorcery engrave yet, but Pillar Drop Warden is really good at like returning a very big instant or sorcery from their grave, because they can cast one of their big 7 mana spells and then do it again with the power of Pillar Drop Warden. So there is that. It's also got Reach, so the Inkling's very bad against it. Same with the Silver Quill Pledge Mage. Most of what I have is pretty bad against it. Do I just play Blade Historian to make the most use of my mana here? I could also attack with Tome Shredder as a 6 power here, basically, if I played Blade Historian, put him down to 14. I think I still like surprising them with that. And Inkling would be the best attacker with Double Strike, because if I like Double Strike with Silver Quill Pledge Mage, it'll still just trade for Pillar Drop Warden. I guess Inkling would just die to it, so I guess, yeah, Silver Quill Pledge Mage here. With Double Strike, Pledge Mage is big enough to trade with Pillar Drop Warden. With Double Strike and Inkling is only a 4-1 still. And of course, if we get Double Strike and have extra mana up, we can Heated Debate during the first strike damage step to just completely clear out the Pillar Drop Warden. Taking 2 more in the sky from Spectacle Mage. Down to 18 now. And just a pass of the turn, we will go ahead and make our Tome Shredder a 4-4 now. Once it gets to 5-5, it's big enough to attack in even without the Double Strike. Shock is a pretty great draw. That makes it so once we hit our 5th land, we can play Blade Historian and hold up Shock, regardless of what color our land is, plains or mountain. So that is actually a really nice draw. We also have enough mana to play our Inkling Summoning and hold up a Shock here. So I do like that. I still don't really like attacking in, because then they just like block and then I Shock. Kind of like holding the Tome Shredder back still, because we can make Tome Shredder 5-5 and then it's big enough to attack in. Even without any support, it'll be big enough to kill Pillar Drop Warden without dying. Well, Pillar Drop's just 1 power, so it dying was never a concern, but it'll be able to kill Pillar Drop Warden without any support, any additional damage from like Shock. I don't think that we want to Shock the Spectacle Mage, because if we Blade Historian holding up a Shock, then first strike damage, Silver Quill does 3 to Pillar Drop Warden, and then Shock kills it. So I like holding up the Shock for our attacks. We're just going to hold back here. Perhaps they don't realize that their 1/5 has Reach, or they're getting ready to chump block now. If they have a Heated Debate, now's the last chance to use it. No Heated Debate, that is good for us. Did not hit the 5th mana yet, so we can't give a Double Strike and hold up a Shock, so we could still only attack in with Tome Shredder, really. I don't really want to give Double Strike right now still. Although it would be big, attacking him with a 5/5 Double Striker. I think I'd rather hold up Heated Debate and Shock. And I actually like keeping Igneous Inspiration here, because the Biblioplex Assistant can throw that back on top. That is a pretty great spell. So that's kind of like the order that we were doing by how good the spells were, Igneous Inspiration being the best one, so we leave it for last. They just have Burying Books. That's obnoxious. Goodbye, Tome Shredder, and all of your counters we worked so hard on. Yep, that's annoying, but it'll do its thing. We are slowing down our draws a lot if we throw an Igneous Inspiration on top. I think we can afford to because of how powerful that card is. What lessons do we have left? Start from scratch doesn't do anything for us right now. Introduction to Prophecy's alright. Elemental Summoning would be good when we hit another mountain. Spirit Summoning's solid. Definitely have some options. You know, at this point I'm over this Pillar Drop Warden. I'm gonna do the 2-for-1 trade on it. Because we have Igneous Inspiration, which is also a 2-for-1, so we can just get back any value we just lost here. So I'm just gonna slam in with everybody. They know that we have Igneous Inspiration here, so they know that we can kill the Pillar Drop Warden off of whatever block they choose to make. Would I rather Igneous Inspiration than Shock here? If I'd rather Shock, I can Shock right now to get a little bit of life gain in. But it also plays pretty poorly if they have like a Burying Books to surprise me here. Yeah, I think I would rather do the damage later, even if we do plan to Shock. If I Shock, I can cast Stonerise Spirit, so that'd be the biggest reason to do that instead of Igneous Inspiration. Just gonna let the combat damage through. Also, if they counter Igneous Inspiration, I'm much sadder than if they counter a Shock. Yeah, I'm actually just gonna go for the Shock here. We'll see what they have. Alright, nothing. So we could have gone for the Igneous Inspiration, but I really didn't want the worst case scenario kind of thing happening there, because the Shock wouldn't be enough damage for one of my 2-1s to trade up into the 1-5, but it definitely would. The Igneous Inspiration definitely would. So they just had a creative outburst there, so definitely very glad that I didn't just try to get lifelink out of that whole situation. If you're using a burn spell and a creature to try to trade up into something else, it's generally always better to let combat just go through and then later cast your burn spell, because if you put your burn spell on the stack during combat, they can remove your creature during combat to give you the 2-for-1. They kill your creature and your burn spell, and it's just a bad time. Well, the biggest reason not to use the Shock would be if we hit a land to Blade Historian into Shock this turn, but I don't really need to do that. We're going to be getting smacked pretty hard by these 4/4s, but I think we just start slamming in the sky. We hit for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, put them down to 10 life. Next turn, Blade Historian plus Stonerise Spirit can just be lethal, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, that's exactly lethal if they don't have removal here. Could also Pillar Drop Rescuer for Silver Quill Pledge Mage. And I have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 flying power. No, I think we just get a Blade Historian on this field. That's just huge. Put them to 10, put them to dead next turn if they don't have removal. They probably have removal. They have a lot of cards there, but we'll see. Gotta make them have it here. course, that is only if they attack in with the Spectacle Mage. If they don't attack in, they do have the blockers. Surprised they don't attack with the 4/4s on the ground either. But I am happy about that. Okay. Can only cast one spell here still. I kind of like dropping down a Pillar Drop Rescuer. I can send these in. I can let a Spectacle Mage trade for Stonerise Spirit. I guess Stonerise Spirit's ability is pretty good here, but I think I just keep playing flyers at this point. I could Igneous Inspiration, get the Spectacle Mage out of the way, and just hit in for 6 flying, potentially. That's also pretty good. But Pillar Drop Rescuer grabs 2 more flyers. Igneous Inspiration doesn't give me any more flyers. It's just another like 4/4 lesson. Oh, they're just gonna kill something when I go to combat here. And then we'll change the math over what I choose to do here. Oh, they're gonna tap them both. That's very not good. And they stay tapped next turn as well. Yep. Well, I'm gonna Pillar Drop Rescuer here for sure then. I guess I could play a Tome Shredder and I can make it a 3/3. Then on my next turn, if I give it flying, that's 6 damage in the sky right there. Let's just play the Pillar Drop Rescuer, get more natural flyers out. We don't have enough mana to just be throwing 4 mana around all the time with this Stonerise Spirit's ability. Pillar Drop Warden. Going to be an annoying blocker. 6 mana now. So I have enough mana to cast the Pledge Mage and the Tome Shredder, which is pretty great. And then I have the instants and sorceries to cast next turn to give the Pledge Mage flying. Just attack with a giant world of flyers. I could also just Igneous Inspiration the Spectacle Mage right now. But Pillar Drop Rescuer is only attacking as essentially a 4/2, so it won't kill the Pillar Drop Warden. I guess I attack with Pillar Drop Rescuer. If it goes through, I can Igneous Inspiration to kill something here. Get rid of that Pillar Drop Warden. Yeah, Pillar Drop Warden is definitely a better blocker than the Spectacle Mage is. And it can get back something like a Snow Day or an Elemental Masterpiece Creative Outburst, all of which would be a bad time for me. So we'll go for the kill on Pillar Drop Warden if we can. Electrolyze to kill both of those and draw a card. That is really good. I'll give it lifelink in the graveyard. Expanded Anatomy can be really huge with Double Strike here. And I'm going to want to cast 2 3-mana spells. Yeah, I'm going to take Expanded Anatomy. Because I'm going to want to cast a Tome Shredder or a Heated Debate for 3. And we have 6 mana total, so being able to cast 2 3-drops would be really good. There's the Igneous Inspiration for the Blade Historian, unfortunately, going to end all of our fun there. Really, really surprised our opponent has not been attacking us with these 4/4s. I think we might have just been dead by now if they had been. Because the 4/4s aren't really blocking anything. I guess they block the 2/3 on the ground, but that's just the one thing there. Expand Anatomy of their own. We're definitely just going to Heated Debate that. Larg Dean of Chaos. The 4/4's still not attacking. I don't have any creatures on the ground. That is definitely pretty weird to me, but we don't know what they've got or what they may be scared of here. I can hit them for 5 in the sky 2 turns in a row here, and that will kill them, so I think that's the goal. Three cards left in hand now. Hopefully our double strike guy pulled the last removal spell from them. Pillar Drop Warden. This is a 3 Pillar Drop Warden sealed pool. That's pretty sweet. It is. Yeah, Pillar Drop Warden is great. It's just such a big blocker. At this point, because they have a Pillar Drop Warden to block with, we're getting in for 1 a turn if I attack with both of these, because they just block our 4/3 with their 1/5. I don't think we can play the long game here, though. I think we have to rely on drawing something great. Excuse me. Like, if we play the long game, we trade here and then expel the other one. We get rid of all their big threats, but they have Plarg, Dean of Chaos, drawing them a card every turn off that 5-mana ability. They have Pillar Drop Warden's going to bring back a massive spell here. We really just need a way to tap down or kill Pillar Drop Warden, and that's basically our only solution to get out of this one. So we have to just take that damage and hope we can break in for lethal through a Pillar Drop Warden. Like, we're straight up just not going to win this game if it goes long, like trading there and exiling that, because then these cards just take over the game. Unfortunately, they have yet another flying blocker. That one brings back the Creative Outburst. We need to win like this turn. Shale's a pretty great card, but only in the early game, so it is not going to get us there in the end. Creative Outburst can just shoot us in the face for 5 damage, and that'll end the game right there. So that'll put us to 2-2. Back to average with our aggressive Lorehold deck. Just using some hand sanitizer. I got my second vaccine dose yesterday, and they gave everybody some hand sanitizer, so that was kind of cool. Oh wow, this stuff smells. Oh god, this is the first time I've used it. It smells way worse than name brand stuff. I'll take it though. Whatever free stuff I can get. Here we are in round 5 with a creatureless hand. However, I think it's still something I'm keeping. Expel, Igneous Inspiration here. The Expels have really underperformed in this deck. My initial assessment of Expel whenever I see it and I'm playing a more aggressive deck is that I probably shouldn't run it because I am pretty aggressive, but then like I do like to look up people's tier lists and opinions on removal and stuff, and everybody's like, Expel's just great removal, it's just awesome removal, and I'm like, okay, well I guess if it's great removal I'm supposed to always play it, but I think I'm just doubting myself when I see like the general consensus on the power level of a card, to the point where I'm like, well, if everybody says it's good, I should play it, but I generally at this point think I should just cut both Expels from this deck. They've been pretty bad most of the time. If I win this game, we'll take another look at the deck list. But just seeing the Expel in hand reminded me of that. I was like, alright, I don't want this card anymore, just ever. So when I play a Heated Debate, they draw a card. That's annoying. Igneous Inspiration, then. And we'll grab something to play next turn, because I don't have a 4-mana card, so next turn I'd like to play like an Inkling Summoning here, or a Spirit Summoning. Against Silver Quill, I think I'd rather probably play an Inkling. Get some flyers out. I guess we have Infuriate to break through on the ground. Yeah, I'll go with the Spirit Summon and get more damage in. So we can play Spirit Summoning, and then anything that they block we can Infuriate. This is really nice artwork on this Infuriate as well. A lot of the Mystical Archives cards look very cool. Poet's Quill is the play from our opponent. Can this destroy an artifact? I don't think so. I think that's the Prismari command that can destroy an artifact. Yeah, this does not. You can sure kill some creatures. Shale is the draw. As good as that is, I want to get as aggressive as possible here. And like, if I play that now, then I get to play Spirit Summoning as a 4/3 next turn, which is good, but I want to just push in for as much damage as I can as quickly as possible against like Poet's Quill, where they're going to be gaining life and stuff. This is definitely the downside of Shale if you're just running Shale. If you're in a white deck, it's a pretty bad draw if you're not playing it on turn 2. If you're playing it literally any turn other than turn 2, the drop-off in power level is pretty large, but it is very powerful on turn 2. We did draw the land for the Lorehold command. Pretty great draw here, so we can just shoot the Stonebound Mentor. We can also shoot it when they try to equip to soak up their mana that way. I'll go for that here. Now... Or I could just expel Stonebound Mentor if they end up attacking with it. But then I have to wait until they equip and attempt to attack. So that seems risky. But if I do that, I can cast Shale and hold up the Expel. I think they might actually attack with it. If they don't attack with it, we can just start chipping away with the flyers. But if they equip the Quill and attack with the Stonebound Mentor here, then this is just a super successful line. Oh yeah, that's lovely. And that's wonderful. Unless they have the +2/+2 hexproof spell, that is a white combat trick. If we Lorehold command, make a 3/2 and give our whole field +1/+0, we do hit for a lot here. Yeah, we hit for lethal, I think. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 1 damage off from lethal. We're going to go for the 1 damage off from lethal this time. That we should have done last time. There. They are at 1. They do gain life off of Environmental Sciences as well as Poet's Quill, but I don't expect a life-linking haster coming out this turn, so I assume they can go to like 3 here, but then Stonerise Spirit can just give one of our 3/2s flying, and then we can hit them for 3 in the sky off of that. Even if they play a ground blocker and give it lifelink. Tap 2 creatures, alright. So we hit them for 1, put them to 2. And they do learn a lesson. Grab a Pest, summoning to block things on the ground. Well, I'm 1 mana away from giving all my 3/2s flying, so that shouldn't matter too much. Combat Professor is the play. Really hope they don't throw the Quill on Professor. Okay, I was gonna say, if they don't throw the Quill on Professor, we can still get there if we top deck a land. probably even if they did. All right, we force a block onto the 3/2 here, which is great. There's a trade there, and we hit for 1. And then we play Silver Quill Pledge Mage. They can give one of the pests lifelink to gain 2 life here, because we're not going to block any pests because they would gain life when they die. Spectre defends, another flying blocker. That'll have to block our 3/2, and then they'll take 1 from the Stonerise Spirit. So they have to give that lifelink, I think. Shale, so they have 2 flying blockers. Well, that would work as well. So they would go... Ooh, Combat Professor, does that do a lot for us? It does in the future, but I think it's better to just give a 3/2 flying this turn, because if we give a 3/2 flying, they either chump that and then kill that. Oh, yeah, that would actually be bad for us. If they chump that and then kill the Stonerise Spirit, that's pretty bad for us. So I think we have to, like, play Combat Professor now and then just attack with the Spirit. Let the pests trade off for it, probably. Because we're at the point now, they have got this thing that can gain life. They've got Poet's Quill they can throw onto their Vigilant Flyer to gain life. They have plenty of ways to gain life, so I think we have to just whittle down the number of blockers they have to ship through this board. I definitely expect the pest double block there. But no, they have really good blocks if we try to send in with the Stonerise Spirit. We could have, instead of throwing a Combat Professor on this board, sent the Spirit into the sky, and then just attacked with the Spirit token, and then they can only chump block with Shale or trade with Spectre. Definitely would be better than the attack with both, but we wouldn't be putting Combat Professor on the board if we did that, because we don't have enough mana to do both. That was the biggest drawback to last turn. If we could do both, that would have been a real easy turn, really great turn overall, but without the ability to do both, definitely some difficulties.
Don't worry, this won't take long.
So that damages us every turn, and then they can copy their instants and sorceries later. They're at 3 life, and I have a shock now. They gain 3 off of one of their blocks. I can make all these 2 power. So I can't lethal them, can I? Because I can shoot Shale and attack with all 3. They can only block 1. So they block there, take 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I think I have to hold on to Shock to kill the Spectre. And in order to kill Spectre with Shock, I need to make sure everything has at least 2 power. Send everybody in here. Shale trades with the 3/1, hopefully, because then I can clear their whole board out, which is really important, because if I clear their whole board, then they don't have any lifelink anymore. That's just, like, incredibly important. So they're at 4 life facing against a 1/2 flyer, so they're on a 4-turn clock. But if they get any creatures, they do immediately have lifelink. Oh dear. That's going to be a 3-power lifelinker that hits me every turn.
Let's see how many volts you can take.
It is a really bad time. I can block with both of these, but that's just terrible. Because Stonerise Spirit can give things flying. That's such a powerful ability right now. I think we just send in for the 1 to stop them from getting the emblem to where they can just double all their instants and sorceries.
You don't frighten me.
I guess if they do attack with the Spiteful Squad, it means Lorehold Pledge Mage can get in without giving it flying. But they almost definitely do, because it gets in for less damage than they gain here. Silver Quill Pledge Mage. So another creature, they have more than enough mana to move the Quill around all the time. Yeah, this is what I was really worried about when I was saying that we gotta just push through for damage and aggro the Quill before it goes off. I think it's just got us here. I mean, they're at 7 already. Now they're getting 4 off of blocks, 4 off of attacks as well. I think we have to keep hitting Rowan to stop them from doubling up any instants and sorceries if they try to start doing 2 per turn later with that ability. But now they just keep moving the Quill to the squad so that Pledge Mage can't block it well. And then move the Quill back every turn, and they just keep gaining 3. And trading with Spiteful Squad would be terrible at any point here, because it's going to kill both of our creatures. If we killed it before they had Pledge Mage, that would be less bad than it is now, but still pretty bad. Because then we just have no creatures on board. We're top decking into what we're top decking, so we just have no action there. No guaranteed action that we know of. So that's why I didn't take the trade earlier. And now that they have other trades, or other creatures out, the trade is disastrously awful. Because of the Death Touch, they still kill both the creatures, and they move all of the counters onto something else and just have one really big lifelinker. Yeah, we're incredibly out of this one. That was a rough one. Rough way to end it for sure. I think we are 2 and 3 there, so that will end today's sealed, unfortunately. Definitely some plays during there that I think we could learn and improve from, but I don't think there were any like disastrously awful plays in any of the losses there, so not a whole ton that we could do in the grand scheme of things. So that will end today's sealed video. Let's go ahead and see what we get out of these prize packs here. See if we get some goodies. Strategic Planning from the Archive and Archmage Emeritus, my first copy. Never played with that card in Limited, but I've played against it a ton. Definitely a kill-on-sight threat, being able to draw so many cards throughout the game. Silver Quill Silencer, we did play against one of those just now in that final match. We did not draw the Heated Debate, so it didn't really do anything. But a 2-mana 3/2 is great rate. The Biblioplex. Still have not played with this card either, but it seems like a fun card for sure. Definitely, if your mana's looking pretty good, I would be interested in running this. So I wouldn't be running it in a 3-color deck or some kind of splashy deck, but in just a 2-color deck dedicated to one of the colleges. This seems like a pretty fun limited card. Whenever you run out of cards, you get to start using this ability, and at worst, you're getting to scry, basically looking at the top card and putting it in your grave if you don't want it. And at best, you're drawing an instant or sorcery every time you do that, so pretty solid land. And the final pack, nothing cool out of the archives today, unfortunately, just a negate there. Final pack is another Archmage Emeritus, our second copy there. So that will end today's video. If you enjoy the content, as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. All of those good things that let the YouTube algorithm know that you are interested in the content and want to see more. So as always, thank you again very much for watching, and I will see you soon for some more Magic Arena.